This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Here we go for the latest episode of Sundays with Dominic and Vito. I am your host, or co-host, I guess you can say, Vito Geronimo Chirco, I'd like to say, alongside mi hermano, Dominic Joseph Chirco. By the way, did you guys know that out there that his middle name is Joseph? Now, I think you knew that my middle name, well, I say Geronimo, is Jerome. Anyways, this is nonsense. Not even worth it. As I am alongside two Oster brothers. We have Joey and Craigen Oster. And we're going to recap the Michigan game against Iowa from early on Saturday afternoon. And it was at the Big House. Michigan won 10-3. But it wasn't pretty. It was not pretty whatsoever. So at least I have two pretty gentlemen alongside me. And then Dominic. For Sundays with Dominic and Vito.
Yeah,
and
there's me.
And then there's Dominic. Dominic, by the way, I didn't even intro you or, let you talk here and say, how are you doing? Let me say that to start off.
Actually, a lot better. I've seen Michigan squeak out a W. Obviously, when you see that,
So it's good. You're all right. He's doing all right, guys. Nobody worries. He's doing all right.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right, too, because I drank some beers, have a beer, and the Osters once again are here. And they're Michigan guys. And let's go with the eldest Oster here right now first for his thoughts on this Michigan W that was ugly all game long. Now, Michigan's D. Joe showed up. The offense, man, was MIA, wasn't it?
Yeah, the D looked great, of course. 10-3, as you said. I think they let up 266 yards total, and only one of those were a rushing yard, I believe. And just the entire game, I kind of was waiting for the game to start. We were kind of talking about that here. And it was like, same thing with Shea Patterson playing quarterback, with that one pass to Nico Collins. Okay, it seems like he's, has a little bit of confidence. He's making a nice throw that looks like the Shea that we were promised we were getting when he was coming in as a transfer. But then after that, just the offense completely went the other direction. They looked like they have pretty much all year, and they look like just every version of the Michigan offense I've really seen under Harbaugh. Not dynamic, just very flaccid, but the defense looked great, and I'm very positive on that. I think that is a good sign moving forward. I'm not as negative. We were talking earlier about the Penn States coming up and Notre Dame and all that. I think with this kind of defense, we can hang around. We just need the offense to show something, and obviously today they didn't show anything.
By the way, did you just use the adjective flaccid? I think I caught that. On my mind, how it's thinking already.
And you know why I used it, Vito.
I know I used it.
We'll
for good reason. For yourself, at least. But now to Craigen Oster. Craigen. Now, Shea Patterson was not terrific at all. And we look at the offense, what they did on the ground game, very minimal, too. And we were kind of making fun as the game was going along. These screen passes. Dumping it off to the running back, to the tight end, and on, 3rd and long. What the heck was going on? And how would you describe the offense that we saw Saturday against Iowa?
Yeah, and Joe kind of put it perfectly. It just looks like same old Michigan at this point. At this point, really, it's reminding me a lot of Mark D'Antonio over at Michigan State. Time and time again, they run out these great defenses, but you see, unless they have a great running back, their offense just kind of can't do a single thing. They go back to their same little plays. Every 2nd and long, every 3rd and long, they either run a draw or throw a little screen pass. That's high school football right there. That's basic. When Gaddis came in, when Harbaugh came in, the team and the fans were promised some sort of innovation, something that was going to make the offense be more of a focal point of the team. And that just hasn't happened. We saw it today every single time, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 17, 3rd and 12. It was, okay, you know what, let's just play for the punt. And that's all well and good. They won the game. But if you're playing like that, like we said, against Penn State, against even Michigan State, against Ohio State, you're just going to get run off the field. And, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't mind playing for the punt like you were saying, when the defense is rolling the way they were today, because the defense was dominant today. It was awesome to watch. But it's felt like every possession, not even they're playing for a punt, they were trying to be cute and, okay, we're gonna run a screen on 3rd and 20, or we're gonna do a little 6-yard out or something. I don't know, just it was odd to watch, and Gaddis just has not impressed me at this point.
Well, here's the thing too, really quick, Craig. It wasn't fun to watch.
Yeah.
God, what kind of football is that? Even old school football that likes a low scoring game, the defensive battles, and Michigan brought the defensive quality, right? High defensive quality. But your offensive coordinator is Josh Gaddis. You brought him in to coach up the offense and create these new offensive schemes and spread it out and have more fun and lead to more excitement offensively, right? Where's the excitement? Because that wasn't exciting whatsoever, correct?
Hell no. And that's one of the things I've been thinking lately about Michigan football is the reason why we watch these games, the reason why we talk about these games after in this sort of setting is because we want to enjoy the game itself. The outcome is great, sure. A Michigan win is awesome, but if I just wasted 3 hours of my Saturday watching pig slop, like, why do I keep doing this?
Yeah, like me and Craigen went to that Army game together. Even though a lot of Michigan fans were pretty anti-Michigan after that game, saying it was a bad win, et cetera, I still felt like I watched a kind of a good football game, if that makes sense, and I was excited during it. And so after that Army game, I had a lot more positive outlook on the team. But then obviously the Wisconsin debacle happened, and we're here.
You know what's funny? So this show is called Sundays with Dominic and Vito. Dominic hasn't talked yet. Should we let him talk? I think we will.
Dude.
Let me get him on here. Dominic, he's my brother. I actually love my brother. I don't say like my brother. I love my brother. Dominic.
Okay, all right. I was like you guys have been parroting too. I'll say the same thing. The defense was really good. What was impressive too is the two bookend tackles. Iowa got their left tackle back, Alaric Jackson, today, and Aiden Hutchinson and the defensive line were really good today. And I think that'll show going forward against teams like Penn State and Ohio State a little bit. But I feel like the scheme of Michigan, relying on that man-to-man a couple times would have probably bit them, especially against Ohio State. There was guys, a better team, better quarterback even. It looked like Nate Stanley had a tough time under duress. But I did notice that Don Brown was playing a little bit more zone, which was impressive on third down. If he can do that more, hopefully that's an adjustment that carries over against the big teams like Penn State and Ohio State especially coming up. So I feel like as far as the defense goes, really good signs going forward. The offense, though, I don't know. The offensive line, very bad again today. No push up front. It looked like Charbonnet was, running into the tackles at times. That's a cause for concern, especially against Ohio State's defensive line and Michigan State's defensive line. So overall, though, when you get a W like that against a team that was coming in undefeated,
ranked 14th in the country.
In the country, you can't beat that.
And guys, with that, Dom is done for the day. Dom, shake your hand, and you can go up to your room now. Thank you very much. Now to Craig. Okay, so, Aiden Hutchinson was good. Dominic brought that up. I should have brought it up, but he's smarter than me, even though he's younger and taller. Not taller by that much.
A little more handsome.
Not handsomer, but...
True. You have a better body.
I know that. But Ambry Thomas, too. Ambry Thomas was good. I mean, Ambry I saw make plays. Aiden Hutchinson, Michael Dana, Dominic Lifeson, Michael Dana, and Lavert Hill. The secondary is stout. The rest of the defense good enough as well, Craig, I think.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think one of the weak spots today for a great day for this defense was those linebackers, though. They just gave up time and time again too many third down conversions, which was the fault of those linebackers, where I think Iowa went 6 of 17 I have here. And it probably should have been worse given how good the secondary and the D-line was playing. But Iowa was able to get something going and kind of exploit the middle of the field for Michigan, which has kind of been a problem too under Don Brown and under Harbaugh these past 4 or 5 years, where if teams can get stuff going in the middle of that defense, they can really start to put Michigan on their heels and kind of exploit that man-to-man coverage. We saw that against Maryland a few times. We saw that against Ohio State 2 seasons ago. So that's something I think that is some concern. But, like you said, the secondary, Lavert Hill, Ambry Thomas, those guys all played lockdown coverage where that didn't really matter at that point. But I will say that it does give me a bit pause on heralding this as, Michigan's defense is legitimately here to stay and one of the best in the country.
Well, now here's the thing, too. So Michigan beat Rutgers. Blowout, but it was Rutgers. Then they went 10-3 on Saturday against Iowa, who couldn't move the football. And I know Michigan's D played great. But so I'm trying to say, really, are we going to say that Michigan's return? I don't think Michigan football's return at a high level yet. We can't say that until they beat a Penn State, beat Notre Dame, Michigan State, maybe, just maybe Ohio State. Joe?
Yeah, and we don't know that much about Iowa. Granted, they were ranked, I think, 14.
And they were 5-0, which is impressive,
they're 5-0.
but still.
That's cool. Or 4-0. But
4-0.
Also, that's barely a month of football. I'm assuming 2 of those games were, we were talking about earlier, are throwaways. Yeah, Middle Tennessee State, obviously, Michigan played the same 2 opponents with them and Rutgers. They had the fluky win against Iowa State, which maybe they still win, regardless of whether or not it happens on that kickoff. But Yeah, like we don't know that much about this Iowa team, just like we don't know much about most of the teams in the country. So getting a win at home against a quote-unquote undefeated team who's ranked a few spots ahead of you, yeah, that's impressive, kind of, but I don't want to jump the gun too much. Like, if this was the Wisconsin game last week, obviously I'd be a lot more hopeful, but Iowa's just, they're fine.
I also feel, too, like none of either team scored in the second half, and I think Michigan, we were talking about this before, has a tendency to play defensive. Once they get the lead, they don't like to. They close the playbook off, and they run the ball, up them, and like just mindless plays, mindless throws by Shea even.
I don't know what's up with Shea.
I don't. What do you think? I mean,
I don't know, man. Like I keep waiting for, I feel like eventually on this drive, this pass, he's gonna become that Shea Patterson that we've been waiting for from Ole Miss. He's going to look like the guy that I imagined in the wing helmet when I was watching those Ole Miss highlights. But he just looks like and this is all speculative because, I'm not playing quarterback and I'm sitting here. But it looks like he doesn't know how to play quarterback. It kind of looks like he's locking on one receiver maybe per play. He's dropping back, and then if the pocket collapses, which has been a lot because the offensive line has looked like shit this year, he just kind of runs around, tries to make a play. And this year, we saw it one play today, I think, where he made maybe two plays with his feet, but we haven't really seen that this year. And it could be because he's injured, but I think that is obviously his biggest weapon is his feet, and he doesn't seem like he's not using that right now.
And I feel like another thing, too, is this is where Gaddis comes into play. Michigan does not run enough empty sets. I feel like they still rely on that pro style, I formation, 12 personnel, jumbo package. They'll bring in an extra offensive tackle sometime. And I feel like in order to utilize their skill positions like Donovan Peoples-Jones more often and Tarek Black, they gotta get the ball in their hands to see what they can do to make a play.
Mm-hmm.
They have, all their guys have size advantages on their defensive, even Iowa.
Yeah.
Everyone does, and their guys are open. I feel like they need to spread the field out in order to run the ball.
And for whatever reason, like the last few times we've had a new offensive coordinator come in, it's usually been heralded as, Michigan is going into the future. We're going to run a spread offense. We're going to, be in the, in 2019 college football, we're going to be running and gunning, blah, blah, blah. But it seems like that every time that happens, we get that offense, but with the stubborn Harbaugh twist, where, like you said, we're not going to empty sets. We're getting, these big backs. We just had a big play to get down to the 5-yard line against Wisconsin. Let's put Ben Mason in the backfield, plays on defense. Like, I don't know, it comes across to me like a stubbornness of Harbaugh, where he wants to be this Bo Schembechler, which I love Harbaugh and I love Bo, but he seems like he wants to be this Michigan of old when everything else, including the personnel on the team, is going in the opposite direction. And I don't know what that is.
Well, how bad is it, too, when Harbaugh's overruling his OC that he hired? Like against Wisconsin, playing Ben Mason, as he noted. He's playing defense now. He used to play fullback. You put him in, and he fumbles against Wisconsin when they're driving in to score. Could have made it a game, maybe. You would have had a better shot to win in Wisconsin. When there's that disconnect, right, you're not going to win football games, I think, consistently moving forward.
Yeah, that's one of the things, too. They talked about, people criticize that the coaching decisions in the Michigan Army game, where Michigan did just kind of turtle and decide to run the ball. And, it turned out to be the right strategic choice. They knew that they had to run clock because essentially that's what Army was doing. If Michigan couldn't get the ball back and they couldn't move the ball down the field, then what's the point, of spreading it out like that? But I think that's part of the problem, too, is you play a team like Army. That's one of the games where you need to get those sorts of reps in those types of sets, playing that style early on in the season. So when you do get to go to Penn State later in the year, you do get Michigan State at home, you do go to play Ohio State at home later in the year, your team has that experience playing that style of football. Yes, you always have to play to win first and foremost, but I don't know what to say when you're having to fight so hard to play to win against Army, and you can't just treat that as an early season game to gain more experience for your team.
And now you have Lovie Smith next week. That's a tough contest against Illinois.
Scary.
At Illinois, I'm scared, okay? But let's not take anybody lightly, I guess, because that is Illinois. It is at noon at Illinois. And then you got Penn State the following week, which is to be determined the start time for that game. That's a really tough contest coming up. But I guess you can't take anybody lightly. But at the same time, guys, if you beat Illinois now, too, 3 straight victories. But what does that mean? I know it's a 3-game winning streak, but who have you beaten? Iowa at home was nice, but I think we can all agree if you play on the road against Iowa, different story, and the magnitude of that victory is different, correct?
Yeah, especially with how bad we saw the offense play at home, too, with momentum on their side time and time again with the turnovers that the defense forced. Michigan was still losing the ball. Granted, okay, they were able to recover some of those drop balls, but I know it begs the question, turnovers are random, but what is going on where so early in the year already there's so many drop balls? Today we happen to pick up more than we happen to give away, but I mean, you look what happened against Army. We almost blew it. You look what happened against Wisconsin. When you're not so lucky to pick up those balls, you have a chance of either losing the game or getting run off the field.
Well, especially, too, in a game where you only won by one touchdown, right,
Yeah.
Dom? And Dom Chirco is here, by the way, too. Dom, what would you like to say? I got the mic right here for him. We got two mics, actually, for him. I'm going to give him my mic and be nice here.
Also, too, I feel like in order for Michigan to open up the running game, I think the tempo needs to speed up as well. I think there's times where, the play clock is winding down. Pretty much every play with Shea, for whatever reason, there's not enough chemistry with the offense and with the offensive line. And I think it'll help the offensive line if there's if there's a tempo where you're speeding things up, because you don't have to, maybe if you get the ball out quickly, you don't have to worry about holding your guard down for defensive linemen rushing in to get the plays off quickly and the throws off quickly. So I feel like, especially with these groups of slot receivers, Ronnie Bell is a very good slot receiver. I think Michigan has to take advantage of Ronnie Bell more often in the passing game and give that offensive line a break, because I feel like if they're back there 10 seconds in the pocket, Shea's not good enough to wiggle his way out and try to feel the pressure. He doesn't have enough pocket presence, and I feel like that's an issue. I think they need to speed up the tempo.
Yeah, that's the thing, too. I was looking through the stats after the game, and I saw, okay, Nico Collins has 3 receptions. I'm not positive. I'm trying to find how many targets he had. But at the end of the day, when you have a receiver like that, where you go to him to open the game, you get a nice, 48 or 51-yard huge play, and then he only has 2 receptions the rest of the way in a game where you're struggling to move the ball down the field. I just don't understand that decision to keep running the ball time and time again to screw over your offensive line like that.
Yeah, like why aren't they taking shots downfield? And what you're saying, Dom, I thought going into this year, like with Gaddis, the whole thing was, like you're saying, Michigan's in the 21st century. They're going to be moving the ball with tempo. They're going to be, just running up to the line, not going to be huddling. And it seems like it doesn't seem like I haven't seen that at all. It's been the same, like slow, sloggy kind of Michigan offense. Even if they are, going quote unquote no huddle, like you said, it seems like they're getting up to the line and Shea's taking forever to hike the ball. Whether that's Shea or whoever is, I don't care who it's on. It's not happening, and that's one of the most annoying things I've seen in the last couple of years with Michigan.
So Shea definitely has to improve his play. And now here's the thing, once again, you have Illinois, you think are going to be Illinois, maybe even roll over Illinois, right? Like Brandon Peters, the starting quarterback over there now. I mean, like, I'll take Shea Patterson over Brandon Peters at least. But then you get to Penn State. At Penn State, and that's when the serious question comes into play of, is Shea good enough to beat Penn State, Joe?
I've always been, more so than other people, I've usually been pro Shea Patterson. I like the way he plays, when he's playing well. But he's shown time and time again against any competent defense that he kind of gets really panicky. It reminds me a lot of the way Devin Gardner kind of became. When Devin Gardner had that one really nice start against Notre Dame under the lights, he looked like an absolute star. And after that, just that offensive line was so bad, he kept getting rattled, where he looked like a scared, shy little puppy who used to get abused or something. And that's kind of what Shea reminds me of when he's running around back there. But I think he has the ability to turn around. But I've been waiting for that for almost a year now, and I haven't seen it. So I honestly don't think it'll happen. We may have to go to Dom's boy Joe.
Yeah, I think as far as like opening the playbook up, I think that Joe Milton has the ability to take the top off of the defense because of his arm talent. And I feel like he has trouble with the short passing game. And that's where Shea is pretty much all he's done really at Michigan. And there's been times where, he's thrown the ball up, one-on-one with Nico Collins, where he has the height advantage. But I feel like if Michigan wants to really move, in the 21st century, I think Joe Milton is your guy at quarterback eventually moving forward. I don't think they make the call, obviously soon, unless, they go into, Penn State and Ohio State where he's struggling. Then I think, time it's time for Joe. I also feel like Iowa's linebackers were not good today as well, and this is something where I think going against Penn State, where you have really good linebackers in a defensive line that can really put pressure on, take the running game out early and then leave open for the secondary, to hold it down. I feel like with that defensive scheme and that talent that they have, I think that's going to be an issue going forward. And I feel like in order for Michigan to overcome that, and I've said this before, is that they're going to have to open up the playbook more and probably spread the wealth around.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
Because, like you're saying, open up the playbook. It feels like Shea is like a game manager, or at least that is like the only thing he can really do is kind of just manage that game. He can't really make plays. I mean, he had a couple nice runs today, but just consistently enough to be that quarterback.
I'm thinking too, possibly that his oblique is still bugging him a little bit.
It must be. I mean, that's why it seems. That's the only thing I can think of why he's not taking off more in these RPOs, these zone read options, where we saw him run a few times today, but we were kind of talking about it during the game and before. Why is he not taking off more, especially in so many scenarios where they would cut to the angle of his vision, and you could see that the read is there. The read for him to pull the ball and take off is there. But
Iowa's linebackers were fooled every time.
Yeah, he took off maybe 2-3 times today, and
Yeah, the two times he took the ball, it worked. I think there was a 10-yard gain and maybe a 20-yard gain. I could be exaggerating on the 20-yard, but like you said, that when he takes the ball, and last year, if my memory serves me correctly, he was doing that more often. He was making a lot more plays with his feet, and he just seemed a lot more confident. And I don't know what's up. It's got to be that oblique.
yeah, because I don't think that would be something where Harbaugh or Gaddis is telling him, okay, hold the ball, hold the ball, hold the ball, because the point of this offense is if the read's there, you go. It's on the quarterback. So, there must be something to that injury still kind of lingering, because otherwise I don't know why he wouldn't be running the ball more.
And then at that point, if the injury is still lingering, why are you still playing?
Well, here's the thing, too, right? So why are you playing him, too, when you brought him in to be a game breaker? And now he's a game manager. He's the opposite of what you brought him to be. You brought him in to be a Johnny Manziel, right, or a Baker Mayfield type of quarterback, and now he's just a game manager. So go to somebody else. But I feel like Dominic, and I'll give it to Dom now here in a second, I promise you. I feel like that this guy's to really struggle mightily against Penn State, 'cause I don't think we think he's going to struggle against Illinois. Okay, and they're going to win anyways. But against Penn State in the first half, if he really struggles, it's going to take that. And even then, guys, I'm not sure if Harbaugh's going to pull him, because he loves his boy Shea Patterson, and he's so darn stubborn. Dom?
Well, yeah, especially against like Nagurski, maybe potential Nagurski Award winner Cam Brown at Penn State. You have Tough Borland at Ohio State. Those linebackers, those defenses will put spies on Shea. They'll take that off. They know that he's got the injury. They'll try to deliver as many hits as they can on him. So in games where they're going to have to maybe open up the zone read option, he's not going to be able to do it anyway. So, because defenses are going to scheme against that, and I feel like that's going to be an adjustment that the coaches are going to have to make, and we'll see. If Gaddis, it might have to be a change at quarterback if he's unhealthy.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. They got to figure out. Maybe that quarterback change will do it, but they have to figure out a way to keep the offense on the field for longer stretches of time. We were looking at it today and talking about Iowa had the ball for 34 minutes. That's unsustainable for Michigan to play this high of a defense, play defense at this high of a level for this long, game after game after game. If they're going to have to be on the field for more than 50% of the time, once you get deeper into the season, those minutes add up big time, especially when your offense is coming out after a big stop and going 3 and out.
Yeah, and it was Josh Uche who had to leave the game with cramps for a while, and it happened against the Army game. I think Kalik was...
Yeah, we were talking about, you've seen that all season. As good as the defense has been, barring that Wisconsin blowout, and they even looked good for stretches there. The fact that the offense gets off the field so quickly, and even after a good series, the defense just has to sprint back out there and lock in again. You already see it weighing with injuries this early. I'm afraid to see what will happen to some of these guys, 3, 4, 5 games from now.
And the defense was tiring out against Wisconsin. And now Wisconsin is better than a team like Iowa, okay, or a team like Rutgers. But still, it's a bad sign when we see it maybe happening. I think we did on Saturday as well. And, I mean, I think it's a bad sign as well for going up against these bigger boys, and especially Ohio State, who can thrash you. And I guess my question now for you guys is, and now the pretty boys of our podcast here, the best-looking dudes, I'm going to go with the Osters first, that would be. Now, I mean, are we ever more confident right now after this game that Michigan can hang in there and actually beat Ohio State? Because I think the answer is still no. I mean, what do you think, Craig? First with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna say hell no.
Hell no, that's a strong word. That's strong language by you.
Yeah, we watch Ohio State. We see what they do week in, week out. After losing one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, having turnovers at every major position year after year, and yet here they come beating teams 45-0, 63-6, week in, week out. They're not struggling with Army. Ohio State plays Army week 2. Guess what? They're putting the beat down on them, and that's something I fully believe. And that makes me think, something I've been talking about with Joe and a lot of our other hardcore Michigan football fans is I don't know what the hell is going on whatsoever with Michigan football. It doesn't matter. They make the right decisions. Everyone criticizes Harbaugh for, running his typical offense. He hires someone that's innovative at OC, and yet here we are again. They criticize him for not getting the right guys in at quarterback. He goes and gets Shea Patterson, maybe the best quarterback in the SEC for that one season at least. He gets good recruiting class after good recruiting class, and yet still here we are. So it makes me just wonder, is this something bigger, greater, more metaphysical that's keeping Michigan down? Is it some sort of something in the zeitgeist of the fan base of this negativity that keeps Michigan losing and on the wrong end of luck or whatever that would be time and time again? I just don't know. I don't see how they could ever surpass Ohio State with the way things are right now.
Joey, right now Michigan's not even close to Ohio State.
Really? You don't say, Vito.
Let me tell you, that wasn't obvious. That wasn't no. I mean, look at Ohio State. I mean, I can't tell. You can't tell just by looking at them.
Honestly, after today, though, I do have more confidence than a week or two ago than I would have, just because the defense did look so good, and the defense single-handedly won that game, and that is just always to me a very badass thing for a team to do, go out and you destroy the opponent physically and you dominate them, and so that's always a plus. But just going off exactly what Craigen was saying, I pretty much feel the same exact thing. Ohio State feels like an Alabama light of the Midwest. Yeah, they feel inevitable. They're very Thanos-y, if that for all you end gamers out there. But no matter who they're playing, if they're playing an underdog, you're never questioning whether or not only are they going to win, they're going to blow out that team. With Michigan, every game I go into, I'm a little bit nervous. Even something like Middle Tennessee State or Army. Obviously, we had a right to be nervous against Army. They won an OT. But yeah, I don't know what it is, honestly.
But here's the thing. So I saw Tulane blew out Army. Mm-hmm. Michigan should have lost against Army. Went to OT and really should have lost if it would have been. I mean, excuse me. I guess I'm getting cut off here. Dom?
Tulane might be a dark horse for a BCS game.
Really?
They've had a really good. Yeah, they're on. New Year's Six Bowl. I mean, not BCS. We're in the.
But elaborate. I don't know too much about Tulane. Are they decent?
Dom, please elaborate for us.
Well, I mean, watching them play, they run a spread offense, and they're kind of like the UCFs of previous years with Mackenzie Milton, who got hurt last year.
Speaking of UCF, they lost again yesterday, so maybe a mid-major like Tulane can fill that void. Yeah,
and I feel like they're not to put anything against Army because they played Michigan really tough, but
yeah, Army I think is a decent football team.
Tulane's not like Tulane of Matt Forte.
Yeah.
When they had him, where it's just Matt Forte and no one else, winning 2 games every year. It's much different. It's a much better Tulane team.
But isn't Michigan better than a Tulane? I mean, it's the program.
No, obviously it's a program difference, but I'm saying if you look at that loss, Tulane might be, they're a ranked team.
Yeah, and the whole thing I've been saying about that Army win, where everyone going out of that game was very negative. Me and Craigen, we were at the game with our father, and so when you're at the game, you're not listening to the commentators talking. You're not listening to the same facts that they're giving you, et cetera, et cetera. So I left that game thinking, you know what, this is kind of a decent little win. And then I go home.
Wait, time out.
The Army game.
The Army was a decent little win?
Yeah. So
wait, explain yourself, please.
I'll elaborate. So then I go home and everyone's on Twitter and all my friends are their heads on fire, et cetera, et cetera. But okay, Michigan played in a game that they probably should have lost, and they were able to squeak out a win. So that A is a positive. B, Army, when you're playing against them, you're almost not playing a football game. You're playing some weird. It's like you're in a weird controlled scrimmage almost. And the hardest thing for Army to do is play from behind. And a couple times, Michigan had the chance to take the lead, and they weren't able to. The main time was on that fumble return that was returned for a touchdown. Was that Kalik? I think it was Kalik who returned it for a touchdown, but it got called back because they said they whistled him down. The very next play, Shea Patterson had one of the worst fumbles I'd ever seen. So let's say that play, Michigan scores, Michigan gets the lead. Then because of that, Army can't just keep the ball forever. They can't just go up and down field and not score and eat clock and chew that. Michigan gets the lead, it becomes a little bit of a different ball game. So yes, I expect Michigan to blow out Army, but just sometimes when you play Army, Air Force, even Navy, like just weird kind of stuff happens. Like it's like I said, it's almost not even playing a football game. You're just playing in some weird exercise.
Craigen, you were there at that game too? So what did you take away from that game if you were there as well? Please tell me.
What I took away from that game is it made me both realize why I never want to go to a live Michigan football game again, but also why I keep going back time and time again. We sat there as Army lined up for that field goal, and I thought there's absolutely zero chance that this does not go in. I was having flashbacks to every, major upset Michigan's had over the past, decade with Rich Rod and with Hoke. And I thought, you know what? This just makes sense that it's happening again, and I'm not even that mad at it. But I'm not going to come again and continue to show up. But, of course, they would go on to miss, and Michigan somehow pulls off a double overtime win with only kicking a field goal in the second overtime. And I thought, you know what? That was great. My day is amazing. And I'll probably go to another game this year. But what I really took away from it is I don't know how to feel about Michigan football anymore. I love it, and I'll continue to watch the games, but I'm not expecting them to win. I'm not expecting them to be a power program. I'm not even expecting them to be a team that competes for the Big Ten championship every year anymore.
That's sad. Should we all cry? But seriously, where are they at in year number 5 under Harbaugh? When people thought they would have been nationally relevant, competing for a Final Four, competing for a national championship, and they might not even be truly competing for a Big Ten East division championship at this point. And it's year number 5 under Harbaugh. Where are we at, Craig, Joe? What do you guys think?
I'm of the mind that Harbaugh has a lifetime contract with Michigan because ultimately I will take 9 to 10 wins every year over what we just saw with.
So pretty much, time out really quick. So time out. You're fine with the Paul Feinbaum. Did you hear what Paul Feinbaum said? That Michigan fans are fine with the 9-10 wins a season and they're good.
Yeah.
So you're all on board with that. And Paul Feinbaum's right. I thought he might have been right. I got a guy right here. You're saying that he's right.
Well, here's why I will say that he's right is the fact that we can't just go back to being a nationally relevant program with the snap of a finger. Ohio State, they didn't have a long down period. They went from Jim Tressel. They had one off year with Luke Fickell in the interim, but then they went right to Urban Meyer.
Before that, though, and it's a little before not just my time, but your time as well, but in the pre-Tressel era, Ohio State was not very good, and Michigan had their number. So there was that little bit of a lull period. But it's like what you were saying, Harbaugh during the Hoke era and the Rich Rod era, people were saying, "Oh, if we could have a Lloyd Carr back with 9 wins."
That poses a question to see as far as coaches go. If Nick Saban were to leave Alabama and Steve Sarkisian steps in, where do you think Alabama is? Because we see where Ohio State is right now in their situation. So where do you think Alabama would be if Saban were to leave and Sarkisian steps in? Would they be able to continue that success?
Oh, I almost think definitely because I don't think Saban would hand the reins off to someone that he wasn't completely confident in because he would just stay if he didn't have a successor handpicked out, which is kind of how the Ohio State thing went because Jim Tressel kind of had to leave amid controversy and whatnot. So that's why they did have that one down year. They had Luke Fickell. He wasn't necessarily handpicked by Tressel to step right in. Once they had that year to go find their coach, they were completely fine.
But what about Urban Meyer? When he left after he left Florida, Florida had a little bit of a down period too.
You could argue too that when Jim Tressel left and Luke Fickell stepped into the role, Ohio State had their only losing season that year. Mm-hmm. And he had the worst season in years for Ohio State.
It's the only time Michigan had beaten them. That was Michigan's first win. I think it was 5 or 6 years. I think it was 2012 or 13, I believe, that Fickell year.
So Jim Harbaugh, by the way, in the post game on Saturday, summed up the offensive performance by saying Shea Patterson managed the game really well. That's what we said about him, which I think is sad at this point, though. Also, another key quote here. Supposedly, he said, I really think we're hitting our stride as in offensively. Now, that is some fake news. I mean, that's like classic fake news right there.
Yeah,
Craig?
what? They averaged 3.3 yards a carry or whatever the hell it was today, and Shea Patterson goes 14 of 26.
I mean, does he really believe that? That's the thing. I think that's got to be coach speak. He can't really believe that. Come on. He's smarter than that.
Nate Stanley had 3 interceptions, and he threw for more yards than Shea Patterson.
Yeah, it still had a better game. I don't get where that's coming from. The offense looked terrible today.
Well, and still, I mean, sugarcoating it. He's a coach. It's got to be coach speak. I mean, he really can't believe that. He's smarter than that. I mean, anybody with a smart football mind or like close to a sane and smart football mind would say, come on, that offense was not clicking on all cylinders. And isn't it hitting? It's not hitting its strides right now.
Well, another question, too. What if you had Michigan's defensive line go up against Shea Patterson? What would have happened?
Oh, he would be on his ass 3 out of every 7 plays. You know, I'd be worried about his health, as we already are worried about his health. But maybe Harbaugh has the right idea here. Talking positively about the team.
Well, the way of spinning it is that he's a game manager. This is PR class 101, right? Because that's all you can say about him. I mean, the best case scenario right now, he's a game manager. But once again, what was he brought in for? That's what's sad about this program right now and about Shea Patterson specifically. He was brought in to be a game breaker when they brought him in. He was going to be a game changer, a Baker Mayfield, a Johnny Manziel type of quarterback. And now he's a game manager? So where is Michigan football gone? We thought we were going up. Maybe we've gone down. We've gone backwards offensively.
Yeah, tell me why Jake Rudock is a more explosive football player than Shea Patterson.
You can argue because Rudock was a game manager.
Best Harbaugh era quarterback.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would kill to have a Jake Rudock right now. If we had Jake Rudock on this Michigan football team, they would be a national title contender.
Going off that, though, Jake Rudock came in and kind of his ultimate peak as a Michigan football player, he was a very, very, very good game manager. So going off that, maybe Harbaugh is able to take this reformed Shea Patterson with the injured oblique and the weird head and turn him into maybe a good game manager.
What puzzles me about this, the Michigan quarterback scenario too, is that Harbaugh was pretty much just as stubborn in the NFL. He had Alex Smith there for a while, but he always had Colin Kaepernick underneath the wing. And I feel like San Francisco lost to New York in the NFC championship game. But if you look at, what Alex Smith was, he was a game manager. So I feel like Harbaugh is more inclined to go with the game manager. And then if something happened with Alex Smith got hurt
and then
Colin Kaepernick had to play, it's almost going to take something like that for Shea Patterson in order for we
and then
see.
You want Joe coming in.
Or even...
Well, McCaffrey, we don't know. Well, we don't know about McCaffrey,
right?
Because as we were talking about earlier, I don't think there is a timetable as of right now about when he'll be back. But I don't know. I like McCaffrey. I've always been very pro Shea Patterson, but after today, I don't know. Like I just kind of want to change.
Even at Stanford, their quarterback before Andrew Luck, Pritchard.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Luck was waiting under the wing too. I feel like Coach Harbaugh has a tough time letting go of someone that's been there and has that experience maybe,
and that just plays off of like the way he runs the offense too. Like he just seems like he's kind of a little stubborn, and I think that may play off what you're saying. It's like he likes having a guy who's been there, and he likes having consistency. It's like why he's in the press conference. It's why he's saying, "Oh, like our offense is taking the right strides," and blah blah blah. Because he likes being that coach, and he likes it's putting a positive spin. Like, you're not going to go out to the press and talk shit about your guys immediately, but he just wants things to be kind of the way they are in his mind. He wants to convince everyone else around him. Maybe that's like, that this is what they are, even if it's just the way he wants
and
it to
maybe
be.
too, like in practice, there's a reason why certain guys, at other programs might get like first team reps, at least, share, a little bit of where Coach Harbaugh might be reluctant to give those reps because he thinks maybe, the team's going to be, they're going to lose their...
Yeah, there's going to be some loss of consistency or whatever. Like, maybe like, we don't have that much confidence in Shea if we're getting, Joe or Dylan McCaffrey reps right here. Like, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, yeah.
And by the way, so Ian Book, the starting quarterback of Notre Dame, now they're only playing Bowling Green, or did play Bowling Green on Saturday, but outscored Bowling Green 21-0. So Michigan and Iowa were outscored by Ian Book himself personally. 3 touchdowns, through 4. In the first quarter on Saturday. outscored Michigan and Iowa in just that one
Jeez.
quarter.
That was the first quarter.
First quarter only. So you got a guy like that you're going to have to play as well. And I think Notre Dame is more the defensive squad than the great offensive squad. But still, that's scary in itself, even though he's doing that against Bowling Green. Then you have Ohio State. If Michigan State ever clicks on all cylinders, and maybe it has its best game offensively against Michigan, if that happens as well. And my point is this, is that moving forward against those 4 big boys coming up after Illinois, well, how many of those teams, guys, do you think Michigan is going to beat? 1 out of 4 at best? Or are we thinking more? I mean, I know you really took a positive out of this game. You really think Michigan's improved based on this game, correct, Joe?
And like that's kind of typically the way I like to approach it too. But Craigen, do you have the schedule right here? Because if we could go through the schedule right now, if you want to.
I mean, it's Illinois then Penn State.
Okay,
I know
Illinois,
that for
then
sure.
Penn State.
Just looking ahead. So let's say Michigan wins next week.
Yeah,
we all think Michigan, right? All
we all
4 of
do,
us
I
obviously
believe.
think Michigan's going to beat Illinois, even on the road. But
on the road because, like I said, they've got their defense. They got skill players on their defense as well, and I feel like I don't know how good the offensive line will be able to hold up against Penn State's defensive line. They got the Nagurski, maybe a potential Nagurski Award winner, best linebacker, with Zach Brown. So I feel like as far as that goes, especially on the road in Happy Valley, we saw what 2 years ago when Saquon Barkley ran all over them. Now there's no Saquon or Miles Sanders, but they now have maybe an offense with, better skill players on the outside, wide receivers, guys like, KJ Hamler. I feel like Michigan will have a tough time on the road against Penn State. But I feel like potentially against Michigan State, they have a really good shot because Michigan State struggled in the secondary. And I feel like other than the defensive line, Michigan State's definitely beatable. And Ohio State, I think they can play maybe tougher than because where the defense is, Michigan's defense is right now. But I want to see how they do against Penn State before I have an opinion on Ohio State and Michigan State.
Yeah, like any Michigan win in the Big Ten, or any win, we'll include Notre Dame for the rest of the season, I kind of expected if they're going to win against an opponent, it's going to look like what we saw today against Iowa.
Ugly
it's
football, ugly win for Michigan.
It's going to be the defense, obviously. But so with the Penn State, there's a scenario where I think it plays out like the Iowa game, but then there's another scenario where I think it plays out the Wisconsin game. And it could be the simple difference of being on the road or being at home. But I like teams like I'm not that afraid of a Michigan State at all. Like I think State is very subpar. Like I think Michigan has their number. I think Michigan will punch.
We
them
saw
in the mouth.
Indiana just throw all over them.
Well, that's what has me afraid of Indiana the week before Ohio State. So not only do we have to worry about Notre Dame and Penn State and Michigan State and Ohio State, Indiana and Maryland, which are both in that stretch, those are no slouches either. Is Maryland on the road too, I think? Those are both 2 road games. Yeah, sure, we get Michigan State, Notre Dame, Ohio State all at home, but I don't want to go into Indiana or Maryland with the way this offense looks. Sure, our D may be able to shut them down, but if we're putting up, no more than 10, 13, 17 points against those teams, that's going to have me worried.
Yeah, and the biggest difference today, if Michigan puts in 1 touchdown, or if they make that, it was a 28 or 29-yard field goal, if they make that game the Iowa game is over so much earlier than, instead of here we're having to wait until the last play, Michigan to, we're chasing down, what's the quarterback's name? Stanley. We're chasing down Stanley, and he's throwing the left-handed pass. Like, if we throw in, that 1 28-yard field goal, that game is over with, 5-6 minutes left.
Illinois, Penn State, Notre Dame, Maryland. How about Penn State and Notre Dame back-to-back weeks? That's really tough right there.
Yeah, that could be 2 bad losses. Honestly, where I'm sitting right now, I'll expect to win just because no matter what, I always think, you know what, maybe this can be the week that Michigan turns around. But, I am legitimately worried. People talked about, this is the year Michigan's set up perfectly. It's year 5. Harbaugh has all of these teams at home. But they weren't looking at the fact that we're putting in a new offense. We lost a ton of guys on defense. Sure, Shea is a returning quarterback, but he's going from one system to another, and that's a major problem too. So all these high expectations, which, this has been said, it's nothing new, maybe they really shouldn't have been had, and maybe that has contributed to Michigan being where they're at right now.
And I also think, too, the Achilles heel on that Michigan defense, Craig, and you said, too, about the linebackers. You go on the road against Maryland, you got, Anthony McFarland, who's an explosive running back for them. And we saw what happened at Wisconsin with Jonathan Taylor. For some reason, Michigan
they hit that
lost,
second level and they're gone.
They lost their gap discipline, and I think they take a lot of risks on that defense. They blitz a lot. They send their Khalil Hudson. They have him play in the box probably a little bit too much, and I feel like that's going to bite them, going forward. And Maryland's a trap game.
We saw that a few times in the game today where Michigan overcommitted on the pursuit of those linebackers, and Iowa was able to get some nice, decently long gains out of little screen passes, little dump offs, and get a first down on 3rd and 12, on 3rd and 7, on 3rd and 8. So imagine what's going to happen when you go against a team like Penn State that has legitimate talent compared to, not that Iowa's not a legitimate program, but Penn State's clearly a step up.
You're looking at like more quick handoffs, get those linebackers to cheat, get the ball out of the quarterback's hands right away, quarterback draws, things like that, RPOs, and I feel like that's where Michigan if offenses get them to play, inside, up inside the box, as good as those D-backs are, playing one-on-one. We saw today even with Lavert Hill, he had trouble. He left the game with cramps, but he had also a pass interference as well. I feel like that, to me, they need to somehow rotate as much as possible. Daxton Hill, he needs to play more. I know he did play more today, but he needs to play like pretty much like 95% of the snaps.
He looked really good today too.
So I feel like if Michigan can rotate more defensive backs, and not stay stubborn on that defensive side of the ball, that'll help going forward. But I think that scheme where they're playing in is going to bite them, where teams are able to throw them over the top, like Ohio State and Justin Fields.
Yeah, and I think that's partially why the defense can be so good and so dominant. They seem kind of stubborn, and this is just a little speculative, but they seem like they rely on, okay, we've coached our guys up better than our opponent, and there's better talent. They're better defensively. They know what they're doing. So we're going to rely on, we're going to be faster than you. We're going to, close the gap. We're going to get to the ball carrier better. But there are little things like we saw today in the Iowa game. They can kind of trick you up with trip you up with little tricks, even just a little little screen or a little bubble screen or something. Yeah, like
use their aggressiveness.
Yes,
against
exactly.
them.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about with Harbaugh. Harbaugh is stubborn, and the defense. And this is a good thing. This is definitely a good thing. They're stubborn and they want to play the way they want to play. They want to dictate the flow. But if teams can take certain things away and just eke in a little bit of their own identity in there, and unravel Michigan's defense a little bit.
It reminds me a lot, and this is more, I know they're in the NFL, but the Chicago Bears with Rex Grossman.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Chicago was very aggressive. They blitzed like more than like 80% of the time with their linebackers. They were able to keep inside the box. And in that Super Bowl game, Peyton Manning eventually, tore into them and used their aggressiveness against them and was just throwing all over the place. So I feel like Michigan's got to take maybe note from that or something, that we got to, and they did play a little bit more zone, and we did mention that before. Maybe rotate more guys as well. They have the talent. That could be their Achilles heel going forward.
I was going to say, too, so, you look at Michigan and they're relying upon the defense so much. It seems like that could come back and burn them, too, in the end, I think, too. You got to improve the offense. That's what it comes down to for me. I think as simple as that, it's about the offense improving moving forward. Or you're not going to beat the big boys. Sure, you're going to beat Illinois, but Penn State, Notre Dame back-to-back weeks. Once again, we saw what Ian Book just did. I know it was Bowling Green, but Ian Book's a good quarterback. Notre Dame plays the D. Notre Dame played close against Georgia. Michigan couldn't play close against Wisconsin, who people thought Michigan would play close against at least, if not win that game. So I think it's just scary thinking about this Michigan team moving forward, being able to beat the big boys when the offense isn't clicking and you have to rely upon your defense so much. And once again, it goes back to the amount of time the defense spends on the field, which is too much. It's getting taxed, too.
I'm also somewhat concerned about the running game.
It looks really bad.
Because, I feel like you have Charbonnet out there, and for whatever reason, I watched, him in California in high school. He hasn't had an explosive, a real big explosive run yet. Even with, I know the offensive line is really bad. Those guards are really bad. Mike Onwenu and Cesar Ruiz did not have good games at all. But I feel like Charbonnet and Turner, for whatever reason, they've been apprehensive. They've been on their toes a little bit, on their heels a little bit, and they're not really breaking off more 20-yard runs, 25-yard runs like they should be doing.
Yeah, I forget which game it was. It may have been the Army game that we keep talking about, but whatever it was, Charbonnet had 100-some yards on something pitiful, like 30 carries, and the Michigan, I think it was Twitter account, was bragging, this great day from Charbonnet, blah, blah, 100-some yards. But it's like you said, he hasn't broken a big run. He's just getting 100 yards because they keep giving him the ball. And we were watching earlier today, we watched one run where it seemed like the blocking wasn't that bad, but he seemed to go into the one hole that was closing up, and there were probably like 3 other holes to the right and to the left, and just I don't know. Like I like Charbonnet, but I'm very I'm proceeding with caution in terms of how much I like him.
Well, here's the thing, too. Is he any better than Karan Higdon, who actually was good and I think actually underrated? And people thought, well, with Charbonnet, they're going to be better. He looked good at times.
I love
but
Higdon.
Higdon was good. Now, maybe even underrated, but not that explosive bell cow back, right? He's not this NFL type that's going to succeed at the next level, and he's not right now, obviously, as well, after leaving Michigan. Charbonnet was going to be this explosive type. And he's only a freshman, but can we expect that moving forward from Charbonnet, these explosive runs that we haven't seen out of him really consistently yet?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, we still got to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. He's a freshman. This is a transition period for Michigan, clearly. Fans didn't want it to be. The team probably didn't want it to be. Harbaugh didn't want it to be. But where it stands right now, they are still going through growing pains with this change in the offense. So maybe once he gets more comfortable, once they figure out how to utilize him within Gaddis's scheme, if Gaddis remains, if the season hopefully continues down a positive trajectory, maybe he can, show some of that explosiveness that was promised and is hoped for.
If Michigan, really quick, loses 5 games, though, and the offense doesn't really improve, is Gaddis on the hot seat because he becomes the scapegoat? Because Michigan, like you said, might have a lifetime job with, Harbaugh might have that lifetime job, right, with Michigan. Is Gaddis then the scapegoat because of the lack of offensive efficiency?
Yeah, probably. What do you think, Dom?
Yeah, obviously. I don't know if it's maybe in the sense that their skill coaches, like their wide receiver coaches, their offensive line coaches, I don't know if it's necessarily a play calling. I think a little bit is, but I also think it's a lot of it is, maybe teaching guys tempo. And I did say this before. Also, I didn't want to bash, Charbonnet as well. I think he is going to be a pretty good running back. I feel a lot of it has to do with the offensive line is a much glaring problem than running back. And Christian Turner's got the burners. He's got the quick feet. I like him, going forward as well in that offense. Sort of like the Chris Evans, maybe probably better than a Chris Evans, I would say.
Hopefully.
As well. But I feel like a lot of it has to do, maybe not so much the actual play calls. I feel like if they had a quarterback that was able to read a defense, like Joe has said, and really adapt to what the defense is giving them.
Kind of the entire offense. I take everything with a grain of salt. It's like what you're saying. It's like it is so out of whack right now that you can't almost place the blame on just Gaddis or just the offensive line or just Shea. Because like we were saying, Michigan has the one of the most talented receiving cores that they've had since like early 2000s when they've had Braylon and Mario Manningham and all that, and just the offense is just so. It's just almost non-existent. Like I feel like we don't even we watch Michigan play defense. We might as well be watching a blank screen when they're on offense. Like it's pretty damn awful.
This is something that I've been thinking. We've been talking a lot about diagnosing what's wrong with Michigan. How do they get better from here? How do they move forward? But something I've been thinking about, especially this season, is kind of building is the fact that you look at all the best schools in the country that are now consistent powers year after year. So yeah, sure, they have great defenses and offenses alike, but they all seem to be Southern schools and Southern-type schools. For example, Ohio State, they definitely, as a university, identify more with the South than I would say they even do the North and the Midwest in general. Is that just a problem with the fact that Michigan is a Northern liberal school? That's what I'm kind of thinking. College football has kind of gone to where if you're a more Southern conservative school, you're just going to be a better football program.
Well, hey, real quick, guys, if they were more of a Trumpian school, more maybe in favor of Donald Trump and his policies and ways, then yeah, I think Michigan No, I don't think so. But Joe,
No, yeah, I was just gonna say, going off that, like even like USC in recent years, yeah, they're looking pretty decent this season, but USC is not even close to being that power that they have been in years past with Alabama and now Clemson, but just even the Texases of the world. And Texas is looking a little bit better now, but yeah, I know what you're saying, CZ, and I feel on that. I just don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's not like a political thing per se, but it is weird that Oregon has dropped off the map. USC has dropped off the map. Michigan has dropped off the map.
so all the liberal schools.
Yeah.
I also think maybe it's not political, but I think it might be like, especially
Cultural, maybe?
Yes, I was gonna say cultural too, especially like in the Midwest, the Heartland, the Great Plains. You know, even like if you look at Iowa, Northwestern, you know, these teams play like that. You know, that pro style. I'm gonna thump you.
That Big Ten ball.
I'm gonna
the Big Ten ball.
the Big
But
Ten.
Ohio State plays like an SEC team.
Right, and I feel like for whatever reason, Michigan maybe was the blueprint in the early, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, but now, you know, it's changed where, you know, that offense, I think the Big 12 actually does not get enough credit as far as, you know, innovating the game.
Oh yeah.
You know, the air raid, which has always been around, but it's been, you know, amplified with, you know, guys like
Well,
Mike Leach,
Cliff Kingsbury,
and Mahomes is Texas Tech. Dude,
Mike Gundy as well. I feel as far as like the offense goes, and Chip Kelly, who had a little sabbatical or whatever in the NFL at Oregon, you know, I think that offense has been, those concepts, those RPOs, they originated here in college football, and now I feel like, you know, everyone's doing that in Florida too as well.
Well, even the NFL, like we saw immediately with going off Harbaugh, they started running the RPO with Kaepernick when he was in San Francisco, and with Russell Wilson. It's a whole big thing. Oh, the NFL is kind of becoming the college game with these running quarterbacks who are mobile and they run the RPOs. But and now it feels like everything is kind of that way, and Michigan is the last team to kind of get on that trend. And like we said, they're running this weird Frankenstein version of a spread offense, which seems like it's a pro style masked in like a spread offense dress, if that makes sense.
So if you can't run the RPO efficiently, then you're behind the eight ball. So how behind the eight ball is Michigan right now?
Big time. They're halfway through their season right now, essentially, and they don't have really an offensive identity. They don't have a play that they know they can go to. They don't have a specific set they know they can go to when they need to get 3 yards, let alone 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus yards. You know, I'm worried every time they step on the field and it's 3rd and 3, because I know that 4th down's coming up, and I know that they're not going to be able to get it if they have to go for it on 4th down. They really don't have an identity, and I really don't understand. Okay, our running game's not there. Shea maybe is too injured to pull the ball in these read options. So why are we not going full air raid? Obviously not going crazy with it. But maybe, you know what? Maybe we do have to go crazy with it. Go 3, 4 wide and just let Shea sling that ball down the field, and you're hoping for either a completion or pass interference.
Another thing, too, is if you look at Michigan's tight ends, they're not very good. I mean, no, Eubanks and McCune, who's I think it was hurt.
I like McCune, but he's hurt, so.
He is hurt, so I feel like as far as like having like a tight end that can move well, like a guy in the NFL, like you think of like Evan Ingram, or a guy like O.J. Howard, who's having a bad year in Tampa Bay, but guys that can actually run in space and, you know, not only use their bodies, but, you know, have the speed to make up and, you know, beat a linebacker in one-on-one coverage. I feel like that's also missing too. Another thing Michigan should do more is have Christian Turner run more routes, like maybe like a Christian McCaffrey where you have him out wide more, a little bit more. I think that would help as far as, you know, spreading the field. But Michigan, they got to get over the 20th century, you know, I'm going to pound you to the death, run you as much as possible. And they got to spread the ball.
I'll pound you too. But you know what?
Brotherly love, baby.
Michigan needs space just like I need space in my life from many individuals. Not my brother, though, I swear to you, all right? But anyways, when we talk about that and the offensive philosophy, I mean, can it be adjusted mid-season now? Or is this a lost cause, you think, guys, with the Michigan offense?
Unless there's a drastic change and Michigan the university decides to put funding towards conservative ideology, I really don't think the offense can change.
I think it's just the political philosophy of just a bunch of these kids going to these Midwestern schools, Joe. I mean, Craig nailed it on the head, man. All about politics.
I'm very
Go on,
jealous
Joe.
of that take. That sounds like something.
That was that's like a first take or undisputed
something
take,
I
like a
would've
Skip
come
Bayless
up
or
with.
Stephen A. Smith or.
I'm not actually.
So it's
serious
cultural. I think
about
it's
it.
maybe cultural based. Maybe my
Yeah.
brother.
I
a
think
little bit better. But I
Dominic's
like
saying it.
both statements there. I mean, very philosophical. You got their smart dudes.
Because Iowa recruits in state, and if you watch Iowa high school football, they play that pro style offense.
Yes.
So I'm not saying necessarily that it's there's a conspiracy that it's cultural or political.
Yeah, but maybe that's
If
just the
it's
way
just-
the game has gone,
Right.
where and something that I think it's something with, and this is only because Michigan's gone the way they have. It's something about the way the fan base feels about the program. Ohio State, year in and year out, what they care about, yes, they're a national championship contender every single year, and they care about that and winning the Big Ten. But first and foremost, they want to beat the hell out of Michigan. And you know what comes with beating the hell out of Michigan? Becoming a national contender. Same thing with Alabama. Alabama wanted to stop being kicked around by the rest of the SEC. They wanted to put the hurt on Auburn. So, you know what they did? They went and built their team to put the hurt on Auburn, and now they're a national title contender.
Here's the thing: they did that by getting Saban, who like everyone was, oh, this is the savior. Ohio State did the same thing by getting Urban Meyer. Michigan thought they were doing the same thing by getting Harbaugh, and I don't know if it's backfired, but it's just been more of like it's almost like a false start or something. Like, because Michigan, like we're dogging on them a bit, but I was talking about this with you guys earlier before we were recording. Yeah, they have not been in the college football playoff. They have not won the Big Ten since Harbaugh. But
Notre Dame, Michigan State, and Ohio State, Michigan's three biggest rivals,
Yes.
all have been to the college football playoff.
yes, and something that happened during the Rich Rod era and the Brady Hoke era, everyone was saying, you know what, I would kill a man to get back to 9 or 10 wins in a Lloyd Carr type season. And now they went and they want to get Bo Schembechler Jr. They got that, and they've gotten almost exactly what they've asked for. But they've had a couple times, like in 2016, even last year on the quote unquote revenge tour, which is one of the most laughable things ever now. But they've been at the cusp. But for whatever reason, it could be like when you're picking hairs at the end of the day, maybe it's something as small or as big as political ideology that is keeping Michigan out of the college
I
football
wouldn't go
playoff.
that far, but
I would.
Well, even
would-
look at Notre Dame's. They're a Catholic, Christian, more conservative-minded school, even though they are further in the north. So maybe there's something there. State's a more liberal school. They had their few years of success, but look where they are now. They're back the middle of the Big Ten.
I feel like too, like if you look at Auburn as well, like you look at their play concepts and they run they'll have 12 personnel, or 11 personnel sometimes, but they'll have they're able to, like Bo Nix, who's not really a pass first quarterback, but I feel like they can make more explosive plays than Michigan. I think that's a problem, and it might be. Is more we talk about, cultural and political. I think it might be more of a quarterback problem now that I think of it.
So, you know what? I'm going to run out the clock here. I'm going to be more of a run-first quarterback now, okay? As we're already past an hour, by the way, of conversating. Can I use that word? Is it a real word in the dictionary? Merriam-Webster? Is that
I
a word?
believe so, yeah, according to Miriam.
It's a new word, okay, implemented by me if it wasn't already. I don't know if it is. Anyways, but final thoughts here about Michigan football as it stands right now after this win on Saturday against Iowa. Joe, first with you. As the eldest Oster here. Joe, final thoughts.
So, as the eldest Oster, I'm usually the more sympathetic towards Michigan football, or positive on the outlook side. And even after that Army game, I thought, oh, Michigan, they can go undefeated. They're undefeated right now.
Still can't
They
believe that. But
keep
by the
going.
way, anyway.
But
no,
either way, I honestly, I'm not as afraid about Michigan State, even really kind of Penn State. I'm just dreading the Ohio State game at the end of the year. I think Michigan can still pull an upset. I think going into that game, Michigan will be in contention to go to the Big Ten championship game. I still believe that. I think their defense is that good. I think they have enough talent on offense, like we've talked about with their receivers, where if they can kind of just figure out a little groove offensively, I think Michigan can still, pull the. Can't think of a good metaphor. I think Michigan's not bad.
But pull an upset in so many words, which Michigan hasn't done under Jim Harbaugh. So to believe that's going to happen, I think it's faulty logic, Joe. I'm sorry about that, but I hope it happens for Michigan still. Craig, how about you?
Yeah, final thoughts here is I'm still, for all the negative thoughts and words that I've had for Harbaugh and Shea and Michigan today, for some reason in my mind, I still feel like they're going to finish the season 10-2, maybe even 11-1 somehow. And that's just, maybe my blind Michigan slappy optimism coming through. But I will say today, my hope was in that first half especially, you know what? I'm gonna think Michigan's turned a corner. But after that second half performance of the offense, I don't see any way that the offense can turn the corner this far into the season.
I would say that there is a way for Michigan to maybe finish the season with winning every game except Ohio State. I feel like Michigan, their defense can probably play well because I think if you look at teams like Penn State, they're younger, inexperienced on the offensive side of the ball. And, even Maryland, who Josh Jackson got hurt today, he left the game with an ankle sprain. I feel like Michigan has a chance to actually run the table again up to Ohio State, but they're not on Ohio State's level by any stretch. So I feel like there's a glimmer of hope there, but I would probably tamper my expectations a little bit. But I feel like they can do the same thing they did last year. They get to, a New Year's Six bowl, and we have the same situation. You play like an SEC school,
Get smacked around.
Yeah.
Those conservatives, they're always smacking around those liberals.
Right. So I feel like Michigan, there is a glimmer of hope, and I think there's a reason for optimism because of the Big Ten's inexperience with Penn State as Maryland as well, and Illinois. So there is a shot, there is a glimmer of hope, and there's reason for optimism at least.
Coach Harbaugh, if you need a quarterback, and I'm going to call you Coach Harbaugh because my brother has been here, okay, a little bit once in a while, mixing it in. If you need a quarterback, Coach Harbaugh, I'm your man. Okay, if Shea goes down or he's not good enough, if McCaffrey's still hurt, if Milton doesn't work out, I'm your man. This guy right here.
Vito's one of the best, most elusive quarterbacks I have seen. He's a great scrambler. So, Coach Harbaugh, take note.
And that's the other thing about Vito. He can throw that ball deep, but I know he can take a pounding too. He's not going to be worried about getting injured or not being able to move forward. He's going to be able to take that pounding time and time again.
I will take any kind of pounding that I have to take because guess what? I got grit. I've got heart, and I'm dedicated to the game of football. Anybody else want to say anything? Joe, you got something, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Really quick, in regards to that,
yeah.
Want to piggyback off of that a little bit?
Yeah.
I like piggybacking off of stuff, by the way, Joe.
Vito's a big piggybacker.
Yeah.
So just me and Craigen and our youngest brother, Deej, he's a couple years younger than us. We just released a couple of short films on the YouTube recently. If you want to check them out, you can check them out. Just search the Oster Bros & Co. Stole it from, Chirco & Co. a little bit. But the first one is called The Skippin' Towns Guy. And the second one, I'll have Craigen tell you the title.
Yeah, that is, and on the last day, he walked far from home. There are two short films in like the 9 to 15-minute range. They're made entirely by us three brothers and all of our friends. And they're great little flicks, and y'all should check them out.
And that would also be, you said 3 brothers, yes. Deej. Now that's David, and what's the J?
David Jr. or David Joseph Jr. Deej.
Okay, Deej, David Joseph Jr.
D-E-J.
Vito Jerome. Chirco here, Dominic Joseph Chirco. How about that? Veej, a Deej, another Deej right there, right? So, and I just love that J, having that J, somewhere in your name. Do you have that, Craig, in your name at all, or no?
I do not have a Z in my name.
Oh, yeah. Zimmerman, right? And dedication of your mom. Your mom's maiden name, correct?
Yes.
Look at that. How smart am I? I mean, I had your mom as a professor and loved her, loved the Oster family, and thanks for joining me on the second ever episode of Sundays with Dominic and Vito.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, V. Thanks, Tom.
Awesome stuff, guys. Adios. Go Blue.
Go Blue.